Good afternoon, everybody, because it is 12:01 in New York. I am Oscar Capel. This is the Phil and Oscar Focus on You special. Phil is on doing a remote today, so he will not be able to be online, but he's somewhere in the ether and can see us all. Um, Today we are going to introduce a good friend of mine from down south, an accomplished author and a hell of a nice guy. I don't know if you guys know what's his name? Ryan Hall. Wish Really wish that Phil was here to introduce him because he's got a great introduction for Ryan Hall. But without further ado, let's get into our talk for today. Can we get Ryan up on the screen? Or am I going to talk to myself all day? There he is, Mr. Hall.
Well, you can certainly
How are
talk to
you?
yourself all day. I just may not be able to listen.
I talk to myself and then I argue with myself, then I lose the arguments. That's the worst part. First. How's Pete
There
doing? I
you
haven't
go.
seen
There
him.
you go. Pete's doing
How's Pete? I
great.
haven't
Pete's
seen him in
doing
a while.
great. He's yeah, this is my old writing partner right here. He's kind of a senior boy. He's been with me ever since I came from Alabama. He's put up with me this whole time and hadn't run away yet.
Has he gotten used to your New York accent yet?
New York accent? What are you talking about?
I was waiting for him. I
I
was waiting for
deny
him.
I
Bless
deny
my
any
heart.
knowledge of a New York accent.
Yeah, we've gone over the differences between New York and down Alabama. Is like we call them shopping carts. You guys call them buggies. Um, and I
Well,
found out the
correct thinking
proper
people call them
pronunciation
buggies. Yeah.
the proper pronunciation of that pie, which is pecan, not
Good boy.
pecan.
Good boy.
And I've also learned not to put blueberries in my cornbread. I've learned a lot from Brian over the years. Some of them even good things. But anyway, you're in New York. You've discovered a new life here. You're doing all sorts of fun stuff. Like I said, you're an author. How many books do you have written now?
Well, I back in this past spring, I released my fourth solo book. I have a collaborative book that I'm also got the byline on as well. And then I was also a participant in two more anthology books. I have been published in seven overall, but four under my own name, and I've just started work on number five. So I just can't help myself when it comes to those books.
Now, as someone who has never written a book, I don't think I've even written a pamphlet. What makes someone go to say, "Hey, you know what? I think I need to write a book." What is that spark that says, "I need to put this down on paper"? What
I think the biggest
books?
thing, I think the biggest thing that comes to mind here is just having a story to tell. Just having a story to tell, if it's fiction, if it's nonfiction, if it's inspirational, if it's complete fantasy. Do you have a story to tell? Do you have a message that's just burning a hole in your soul? It's just burning a hole in your being. Do you have a story to tell? That's the biggest thing that I always ask people is, do you have a story to tell? Do you have a message that you just have to share with the world?
Cool. And what was that message that you had, and when did you know you had that message or is it like a lifelong thing, or at some point you're like, I got to get this story out. I got to tell my side.
All right. Well, for me, it was definitely a lifelong pursuit. It's definitely been a lifelong pursuit. It was a dream that I always had, really starting when I was 10 years old. Now, as Oscar so generously stated, I'm originally from Alabama, and originally from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and my grandfather lived down in southeast Alabama near a town called Dothan, Alabama. Lived in just a tiny little town called Webb. And my grandfather was was an award-winning farmer, and just like he won national awards for this. Even kind of earlier in the year that I turned 10, he was invited to Minneapolis to receive an award from Vice President George Bush. So he got to meet Vice President George Bush. But um, during that summer, my grandfather raised corn, peanuts, soybeans, just really a lot of different kinds of things. Also did livestock as well, but his bread and butter were peanuts. And that summer that I turned 10, which would have been 1987, do the math, I was very dry. And granddaddy had these long irrigation rigs, like 20, 30 yards long, just like all down the field. And it was fed by a nearby lake. And there was this patch of peanuts that was dying. And he couldn't figure out why. So his suspicion was that the irrigation, which was set on a timer, wasn't working. So he invited my sister and me to ride over there with him when the timer was set to go off. Now, on as we were waiting, there were a ton of lightning bugs out that night. Just a ton of fireflies. And this man had me so convinced that these lightning bugs were this race of alien monkeys that had been put on this planet to sabotage irrigation equipment, that I just had to do something about it. That it was just really burning at me, that I just had to do something with it. So I begged my mom to help me write it. Um, I did some crude drawings. My dad typed it up, and we gave it to him for his birthday at the end of that August, and he loved it. And that was that spark. That was that spark of, I just have to write books. I just have to write stories. And it honestly, it took me from the time I was 10 to the time that I was almost 40 before I was able to publish my first book. But it was a lifelong dream that I just never let go of.
That's wild. See, that's a different personalities. You took that situation. It's like I'm gonna write a book about it. I would be looking for a tennis racket and try to wipe out as many of those monkeys as I possibly could. So it's
Well,
a
I
it's
mean,
a
I,
violent Bronx nature of mine.
that rapier wit that you like to talk about so proudly. um,
It's like I bet you I can kill about 1,000 of these guys with a tennis
yeah,
racket. So yeah.
yeah, probably. But
So that was your
my
first. I'm sorry, that was your first book, basically, the Firefly, the flying monkeys. Maybe you gave idea to the Oz book, Flying Monkeys. There's a thought there, or
yeah,
maybe you got it from there. That little plagiarism with the flying monkeys. You added the
I
light
think
part to
I
it.
think he honestly, I think he probably got it from there. He probably stole it from the Wizard of Oz.
So you come from a long line of plagiarists, is what you're telling us.
I call them
Oh,
storytellers. You can call them plagiarists, whatever you want to do.
hey, listen, if you copy from one person, it's plagiarism. If you copy from a lot, it's research, right? That's what they say for college papers.
Yep.
um, so you've done collaborative projects. You found other souls that like to write and get stories out.
Yes.
Tell us about those projects.
All right. Well, my in the past few years, I mean, I always consider myself a writer, author, and a storyteller first and foremost. But in the past number of years, I have been working with other authors and other storytellers to help them get their books out into the world, to help them get their stories out into the world. And I'm, building a business around this. And the first commission title that I had was A Girl from Southern Boulevard, which was written by a mutual friend of ours, Coach Glow. And it was just an incredible process helping her kind of refine her incredibly powerful story to to really speak to the people in her community and her recovery community. And we are going to be doing that book in Spanish, by the way. We've already got everything kind of
Wow.
laid out. We're just kind of working on the time to be able to. I didn't translate it, by the way. I took 2 years of Spanish in college and it didn't help. But we're going to be publishing that here probably in the next couple of months, I'm thinking. Um, but we did that. I've done a children's book satire, which was really fun. I've and the a project that I took on towards the end of 2023 was something that had been really building in me for several years. And the book is called The Expanding Man Chronicles. Now, what the Expanding Man Chronicles is, it's a collaborative book where me and six other men from six walks of life, from seven walks of life, we combine, we're telling our stories of what it means to expand our definition of what it means to be a man in this world. And this book was incredibly well received. It's been, it's probably my highest reviewed book on my Amazon page. And it's been it was just a real kind of labor of love. I'm going to be doing a volume 2 of this. I'm accepting applications for that for the spring of next year, for the spring of 2025. But one of my authors from that book is he's a fellow coach. His name is Steve Strother. Now, kind of towards the end of that process, towards the end of the Expanding Man process, he came to me and said, "Ryan, I've got this story that's just kind of this book I did that it's just been kind of chewing at me." And this was like a year ago, November, that we started working on this. And we're working on the final edits of his book right now. And his book is
Cool.
called The Love Intention: One Man's Treasure Hunt for Life's Big Adventure, for Life's Big Answers. And the book is essentially it's slice of life stories from his life that really show that love is everywhere. You just have to be able to you just have to be able to see it not just with your eyes. You have to be willing to feel it. You have to be willing to kind of experience it. And that book is coming out in a few weeks. We're looking to get it out here by the end of August of 2024. We're kind of running into some technical issues that may take a little bit of time to work out, but we're you know we're just about set to drop that into the world. So I'm really excited about that book, and yeah, just got a lot of things going on here with Royal Heights Media.
Beautiful. Um, if someone is listening and saying, I have a story, I think I need to write a book, should they contact you to get them started? Can you mentor them? Can you give them coaching? Can hear the pitfalls? This is what you don't want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The I call it storytelling coaching because there's more than one way to tell a story. Because I truly believe that stories can change the world, one person at a time. But if you're telling a story, as I like to say, if you're telling the story, if you're trying to tell the story of what tried to break you, of overcoming what tried to break you, there's going to be some pitfalls, some obstacles, some things that are going to get in the way. I like to call it rubble, right? Just imagine that you've got the rubble of like a destroyed building. You're climbing out from under that rubble of all the, all the trauma, all the stuff that might have happened to you. You reach you reach daylight, but then rubble starts falling on top of you. During the process that how I support people in finding their voice so that they can tell their story, is I help them get through this rubble. I help them get through the inevitable pitfalls, the inevitable fears, the inevitable anxieties that may start to come up when you're being just super vulnerable about your life. I mean, I've got plenty of experience in this, and it still gets me. So I'm definitely not immune to this, but I also know how to get through this. And especially if you're a first time author, if you're a first time storyteller, if you're a first time of somebody who is just telling something, again, just telling the story of what tried to break you, there's going to be some fears that come up. There's going to be some anxieties that come up. There's going to be some worries that's going to come up. I help you get either through, over, or around those obstacles, because they are going to come up. It's inevitable.
Yeah, that's how you start to find the that voice in your head with all the problems that's been sitting there going, I'm going to come out soon, and here I am, and that's so. How does somebody reach you if they want to start thinking about doing a book or thinking about doing this or actually starting their first book?
Well, the best way to connect with me is just to go to my website, which is royalheartsmedia.com. Go to my website. There is a contact form that you can fill out, and I will get back with you. Or you can, as I say on my podcast all the time, you can shoot me a good old fashioned email at royalheartscoaching@gmail.com. So yeah, that's definitely the two best ways to get in touch with me. But if you go to my website, you can also see examples of not only my books, but the books that my clients have put out.
Wonderful. So the where did you get the inspiration for writing, the title "The Expanding Man"? Was it you're listening to a Steely Dan song and it's like this is the day of the expanding man? And like, hey, that's a damn good title.
You
Oh,
completely
we're gonna
stole
make it to
my
the
thunder. You
plagiarism.
completely stole my thunder, Oscar. Dang it. Um, but
Which I've
yes,
been known to
that
do.
one of the reasons why I love you. But the Expanding Man Chronicles, it was that title. I mean, obviously, Deacon Blues is one of my favorite songs of all time. But that title, I think, really came to me at a kind of a dark time in my life. Like I had just been let go from what I thought was my dream job. It was, kind of a surprising thing, but had just been let go from what I thought was my dream job. I was really at kind of the edge of my wits, so to speak. And I just kept hearing that line over and over again. And this is the day of the expanding man, because and I mention it in my chapter in this book. But there is a line from that song that I think really speaks to what I was looking to accomplish, not only with that book, but with this movement. And that line is, "This brother is free." To be able to get past, to be able to get free of the fear and the anxiety and of the depression and of the mental health stuff that I still struggle with, to be, to be quite transparent on that. But to be able to get past that, to be able to use my platform as a man in this world to really show people, and also the other incredible authors in that book, but to be able to show people that there is more than one way to be a man in this world. There is more than one way um, to be a man in this world, and that's just simply something that I am just just crazy passionate and um just really am in love with, is just using my platform as a man to show the world that there's more than one way to be a man in this world. Expanding our definition of what it means to be a man. That's what I did, and that's what we did in book number one, and that's what I'm looking to do in book number two.
You're you're beating on the line of the toxic male. It's like, wait, there's a lot of layers here. You just can't pick one title and just put everybody under that umbrella. Here's a book that explains how many different layers we have, how we are expanding. And again, that I love that Steely Dan song also. It's and the whole song, if you go through the lyrics, it's all about breaking through and let me see if I can find one line. Um, I'll make it this time. I'm ready to cross that fine line. It's like
Yes.
this is it. There's a line in there. I got my back to the wall. Um, all of these things. I could see why this song was running through your head at that time. I remember the phone call afterwards, because I knew you before you got that job, and like, oh man, I finally got this job I wanted to do, and you're there, and then it you know what, it wasn't for you. It
No.
You needed to be released from that job to do what you're doing. Otherwise, you'd be writing somebody else's story now. And we'd be poorer for it because we wouldn't have these books available.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, I no, I could not agree with that more, even though it just took me out just like a steel chair to the head in a WWE ring. I feel like it was the best move for me. It was like God putting me in, like he put me in that spot. He put me in that spot, and then and then it was like he was telling me, "You don't belong here."
and there's no going back. Not
And
only
there's
do you
no
not, I
going
won't
back.
even give you the chance to reconsider. It's not like I don't think I like this. I think I'm going to quit and start my own. Like, no, 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 no. There's a back door to that one. He's like, you need to leave now. Thank you, goodbye, and sit on
Yeah.
that platform. Is like, what's my next move? What's my and then the song comes to your head, and you're like, I have to do something else. I have to not only and again, from your books, they're very cathartic for you, but it also people find themselves in those pages. I'm like, oh, okay, I could see that. I could see that. And like, and there is a way out. And now I should write a book. So it could be this ball rolling from your first book, not the Firefly
No, no, absolutely. I mean, Monkey Town, I wish I could find that. Was the title, by the way, was Monkey Town. Um,
one.
but that, what I wouldn't give to be able to find that. But I released a memoir back in 2022 called Mining for My Voice. And that was a lot more of my personal story. But I will never forget the day that I released that. The day that even before it went public, right? Even before the paperback and the hardcover went public, I got an email from a man who I was friends with back in like third grade. his family moved away, like, he and his family moved away, but and I'm not gonna go into, like, explicit detail on it, but the email was just really talking about how much that book meant to him, was just, like, how much that book meant to him, so you never know. You really never know, like, I've got like, I really love, like, Stephen Covey's circles of influence concept, is that if you have like, if your story can affect 5 different people, right? If your story can affect 5 different people, your story, your voice, those 5 people can affect 5 people each. It can, considering that there's no cross pollination, no crossing the streams or anything like that, eventually the entire world is going to be affected by your story. That's how important your story is. That's how important your voice is to this world. You may think you live in a bubble, but yes, you do live in a big blue bubble that circles the sun every 365 days. That's a big bubble, and yes, you do live in a bubble, but you never know how important your voice is until you actually let it loose and let it off the leash.
Yeah, and when you say that, it comes to mind. Mel Robbins wrote a book, The 5 Second Rule, um, and she pretty much gives away everything that the book is about, and it's about counting back from 5 to 1 and moving and changing what you're doing and starting over. And she got a letter from a guy in England who was ready to end his life. He was on the ferry. He was going to jump in the water, and he just counted backwards: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Turned around and restarted his life. And it was like, I did not write the book for that. I wrote that because this is something stupid that I did, to get out of my own head. And the number of people that have written her and saying, yeah, I was that close until I counted backwards. It's amazing. You never know what your book is going to do, who it's going to touch, and how it's going to affect everyone in that bubble that we're in.
Totally, totally, and this and just the hardest, the most difficult words that you ever write in that book are gonna be the very first words, because once you start to write those, you're gonna start to see just how powerful your voice, how powerful your story, how powerful you really are when you start writing those words. Because, even as, we're both admirers of David Goggins. Did he had like super faith in his story when he wrote those books? He had super faith in himself when he wrote those books. But did he realize just how impactful those stories would be? No, nobody really knows. But like, when his book was released, I think he was the number 2 bestseller on Amazon the week that his book came out. Number 1 was Michelle Obama. So that's the kinda territory that he was playing in. So you never know how impactful your story is gonna be until you actually start to tell it.
And then more and more things come out, and like, oh, there's a memory there that triggers that, and that triggers that, and all of a sudden, now it's volume 2 coming out.
That's why we write
Fantastic.
sequels, my friend.
All right. It has been a pleasure to speak with you again, and I know this will not be the last time. One more time, give people information on how to reach you, how to reach out to you, and questions, comments, and everything else. Let us know how to find you.
Absolutely. My the best way that you can connect with me is going to be on my website, royalheartsmedia.com. You can follow me, as I say, on the social media machine. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. Yes, it's still Twitter and Instagram at Ryan Hall Writes. Or just shoot me a good old fashioned email at royalheartscoaching@gmail.com. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to have a conversation with you about just what it means to really find your voice so that you can tell your story.
And when you tell your story, you're telling a lot of other people's story that didn't know they had the same story. So it's a win-win.
Absolutely.
Ryan,
And
it's
it,
been a pleasure. Give
and absolutely, Oscar, and thank you for you and Dr. Phil for inviting me to join y'all this afternoon.
give Pete a hug for me. and a
Will
big
do.
old dog treat.
All right, will do,
Take
brother.
care.
All
We'll
right,
see
man.
you the next time. Bye bye.